Welcome to this, my next YouTube video in the series Rishi Devra, the Fantasy and the Facts. In this YouTube video, what we'll be looking at is some of the correspondence that some of Miss West's employees sent to the whistleblower via email in March of 2007. This was about a year after the first assault on Dr. Cole, and about a year before Miss West was convicted of that assault in April 2008. During that time, Dr. Cole's friend Rebecca West continued to work for Miss West, and both Dr. Cole and Rebecca West continued to be targeted by Miss West as she sought to intimidate Dr. Cole into withdrawing her complaint to the police, and sought to intimidate Rebecca West into withdrawing her statement on behalf of Dr. Cole. I will advance the slide slowly, but if you wish to read the detail on the screen, please pause the video and then press play again when you want to move to the next slide. Thank you. In this first slide, and please note the date at the top, 7th of March 2007, Rebecca West states that more than 30 employees have come and gone, and 16 of them since the previous May in 2006, not counting herself. She also says that 2 of the 3 remaining employees are very much under Miss West's control, which means that they will report anything that is said to Miss West, so Rebecca cannot really talk to them and tell them about how she feels. She refers to the fact that she's owed money. There's a missing paycheck, there's overtime that's owed to her, overdraft charges, wishful thinking, and a bonus that she was promised for hundreds of hours of overtime. This is standard procedure for Miss West. If you've seen the triangle diagram where effort and creativity goes in the bottom and money comes out of the top, part of the reason this works is that Miss West forces her slaves to work for little or no money, and Miss West reaps the benefit of their efforts. In this next excerpt from the same letter, Rebecca relates the fact that she's written a letter to Miss West, but she's hesitant about sending it because she knows it will create a wave of violent behaviour. In other words, Miss West has trained Rebecca, almost trained Rebecca, to be obedient and submissive. And Rebecca knows that any independence shown on her part, or insistence that she be treated like a proper human being with courtesy, will be met with a wave of violence from Miss West, who expects her to behave like a trained dog. Rebecca states that her only safety net, as per law enforcement, is to get a letter of no contact or go before a judge and get an order forcing Miss West not to stalk her. Rebecca goes on to talk about what a strain this has been on her relationship with her partner and how most men don't think this is a big deal. Of course, they don't know Miss West. This attitude is pervasive, and it includes her current finance controller. Now, where you see square brackets with the name Jeffrey Reynolds inside them, I have injected those brackets into the correspondence because Jeffrey Reynolds plays an important part going forward in this whole criminal conspiracy. Here Rebecca West refers to the fact that Devra West has extorted $300,000 from Jeffrey Reynolds since September 2006, and that he's very afraid of losing his money, his wife, his children. Going forward, Miss West holds this over Reynolds' head and basically turns him into a marionette that does her bidding, even though her bidding takes him way outside the law. Now, here is perhaps the most important paragraph in this letter, and it refers to the fact that Devra West uses the occult, shamanism, witchcraft to target victims, both to force them to empty their bank accounts into hers, but also against those who attempt to out her, who stand as witness against her for the violence she's meted out towards others. She targets those too. And in the context of the Dr. Cole situation, where West violently assaulted her as part of a planned campaign to intimidate her into handing over her entire net worth, estimated at $1.3 million, Rebecca West was not only Dr. Cole's friend, but a witness to the assault on Dr. Cole. What makes Devra Patton West so dangerous and a much more effective criminal than the, if you like, average medium who tells somebody they've got a disease in their head, a tumour or something, and for $100,000 they can remove it. Of course, the tumour doesn't exist in the first place. In West's case, because she has studied shamanism and the occult for 30 or more years and been to one of the best energy schools on the planet, she's actually able to cause people extreme pain, illness, suffering, and even cause their deaths at a distance. Now, I don't have time here to talk about this much, so I suggest to anybody having problems assimilating this, go to video 4 and review the information there. Suffice to say that Rebecca West in this paragraph, in writing to the whistleblower, is asking him for help with Miss West's shamanic witchcraft. Now, what is interesting about this is that the people that complain of being on the receiving end of witchcraft, shamanism, psychic attacks, whatever you want to call it, occult violence by Miss West, are all people that have one common denominator. That is, they all knew Miss West. Now, apart from the whistleblower, who's been under attack in this way by Miss West for the last 8.5, getting on 9 years, there's Rebecca West. Now, the whistleblower's never met Rebecca West. There is Michelle Fetvite, who was Miss West's neighbor at Lakeside, Montana, when Miss West was renting a house next door to Michelle. And Michelle contacted the whistleblower after seeing his website and said, yes, that she too was aware of the witchcraft and being woken up at 3 a.m. every morning. And we would add that the whistleblower has never met Michelle Fetvite either. And then, of course, the other big witness to this is Miss West's own daughter-in-law, or ex-daughter-in-law, Jamie Hayward, who basically ended up in a custody battle for her infant daughter against Miss West's son, Chris Hayward. And Miss West, according to Jamie, who alleges it both in an email to the whistleblower and in court while giving evidence at the custody hearing, that Miss West directed occult attacks against her and her infant daughter as a method of applying intimidation to her in the hope that she would give up her infant daughter to West's son and not go to court to the custody hearing and fight for custody of her daughter. But getting back to Reynolds, proof that Reynolds was about to go over to the dark side in early 2007, or already had, was the fact that in August 2007, Reynolds, while giving an interview to the Big Fork Eagle reporter, let it be known in what he thought was an off-the-record conversation that the whistleblower would be dead within 12 months or in jail for retaliating for what Miss West was going to do to him and his family. The Big Fork Eagle reporter, Constance C., took this threat seriously enough to pass it on to a federal agent, John Nielsen, who was a criminal investigator for the IRS, who was investigating Miss West at the time, who passed on the threat to the whistleblower via email, who gave it to his lawyer, where that email now resides. Of course, when this murder plot failed, Reynolds, again showing how far he'd gone over to the dark side, not only agreed to join with Miss West in a frivolous lawsuit against the whistleblower for telling the truth and making public West's criminality, but agreed to front that lawsuit for Miss West. So we have Reynolds, who went from being duped into loaning Miss West $300,000 and turning a blind eye to the crimes being committed against Rebecca West and others in the office where he worked, to being privy to a plot to murder the whistleblower, which he couldn't contain and shared with the reporter, and then when that failed, joined with Miss West in a defamation lawsuit against the whistleblower for telling the truth, knowing that that would gag him from sharing what he knew with the public and financially ruin him. If proof was necessary, that Reynolds is complicit in Miss West's criminal conspiracy, not just to defraud the whistleblower, but the public at large. The slide speaks to the fact that Jeffrey Reynolds is out of money and is therefore totally under the control of Miss West if he ever wants to see a cent of his money back. It also speaks to the fact that Dr. Julio Williams has given her $100,000 last week, and that Devra West spends money so fast that this funding will not last long. Rebecca goes on to speak to the fact that she's aware that Devra Patton West has hoarded away her wealth, a lot of which is converted into jewels, artwork and artifacts that are easily hidden and easily transported if she needs to get out of Dodge quickly. It's interesting that Rebecca refers to artwork and artifacts that are secreted away, because after the charity was shut down in Victor, Miss West emptied the property of approximately $4 million worth of valuables, artwork and artifacts, and then hid them away in a lockup somewhere, and they were to reappear in 2014 and be auctioned off. And guess who was present at the auction? Jeffrey Reynolds. This slide refers to the fact that the son of one of Miss West's biggest benefactors had phoned Jeffrey Reynolds and demanded the millions of dollars that his mother had contributed to her good causes be returned to him and the family. In addition, Rebecca references the fact that there are several other former employees who have filed claims at the Montana State Wage and Labor Board, alleging that they have not been paid wages owed. This is normal business practice for Miss West, which is why we use the meat grinder as a metaphor for what she's doing, and that is that people's effort and time and creativity goes into the top of the mincer, and money comes out of the bottom. Money for Miss West, of course, not for anybody else. Because of the limited amount of time on this video, I'm now just going to whiz through the remaining slides. I suggest you stop this video and read them. The information that Rebecca is giving is quite harrowing. It talks about the financial impropriety of Miss West as she manipulates people and extorts money from them. Rebecca refers to the fact that she and Dr. Cole are very afraid. And as we've established by now, Reynolds has been turned over to the dark side and is refusing to go to the police about all the crimes he's seeing going on around him. And going forward, it is clear that Reynolds became a full participant in more serious crimes, including complicity to commit murder and money laundering of stolen money through West businesses. Please be sure to like my video and please help me make it go viral. Someone's life may depend upon it.